got the perfect lighting. Imani doesn't have
I was
this,
gonna
by
say,
the
I
way,
always
guys.
look like a fucking ghost. There's literally never any good lighting where he sits.
I have a whole like light thing that I have set up from streaming. Yeah, you know what I'm saying.
Okay.
So, Imani.
Wait, wait, genuinely give me like 1 second. I just need a, I just need a letter. I just need to text this person. Yeah, that's the only way I get it. I'm gonna send a heart to show support. Hold on. Babies scare me. Um, and I am in NOLA this weekend. We can meet up and chat more. If you'll be in town. I think we should normalize. Are we recording?
Yep.
I think we should normalize killing babies later in the process. Personally, I just think why is that why is there a limit? You know, why
Welcome to
can't
the
I change
Aceline
my life?
Podcast. I'm not touching that subject.
We collectively support baby murder, right? Right, Jim? Right? We that's what we yeah.
So,
That's what you
Imani,
said.
so
That's what you said.
I finally finished A Court of Mist and Fury, which is the second book to A Court of Thorns and Roses.
Oh, it's only
Um,
the second one.
yeah, this is the second one. And
Bro,
I
you're
want you to know,
slacking.
Imani, I took the longest break. I started this book last year. Yeah.
You're just now finishing it.
I started this book last year. I got to uh about this far into the book. Like I had finished all this and I only had
You
this left
stopped at the end.
because something happened in this book that pissed me off and I was like, "No, this book is stupid. I don't want to finish it." And
Oh
I
my
never did.
god.
And for the longest time, Tyra was trying to beg me to finish it because he was like, I just gotta get your reaction. I'm like, I just don't care about this book anymore. So I and nothing, but I did other reading. I read the whole Game of Thrones series. I read through again. By the way, I had previously read through Game of Thrones before, and so I just read.
You reread a book before finishing the
No, no,
one you
no,
were like 20
not a
pages
book.
from.
I reread a whole series, Imani, and not just that book. Okay, I read plenty of other books. I read. Well, I'm rereading this, but I read Women Who Run with the Wolves. I read Red Dead History. Yes,
Not the
sir.
nonfiction.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I read a lot of books in between these,
I read a
and
lot of books.
I read a lot of books. No, but
Well,
I did, and I came back to this finally because I saw. I don't know. People were talking about it, and I was like, "Man, I guess, I got to do it.
time.
Got to do it." So, Imani, I wanted to talk
Chill.
about. I wanted to talk about this book, not specifically what happens in it, but just like the marketing around it, because
You know I wouldn't care if you spoiled it for
yeah,
me.
because this book, I mean, look at the color of this book, Imani. This book stands out. I went to my bookstore. Not that I ever buy books in it, and I just pick the book up and take a picture of it and see that it's cheaper on Amazon. So I always ended up just buying it on Amazon. But I go into the bookstore at least, and because okay, so you walk into my bookstore, and on the right is a coffee shop. When you go past that, there's just a whole long row that is just
Mm,
fantasy and science fiction and whatever else.
yeah.
Um, and you see all these different books, and I see this book, Imani, this color just out, and I know exactly what that book is. And I'm telling you, Imani, that's marketing.
Isn't
That's
that crazy? You have full range on the color teal. Like people associate the color teal in the fantasy section with like, oh yeah, that's
yeah,
what's it called? A kafa? Acta
ACOTAR.
Akatar. Some of the same words, you know. Isn't the first book like red or something?
Yeah, the first book looks like this. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess I don't know, but like this book specifically just stands out. I'm like, that's marketing. That I mean, like, if I had never read, if I had like never knew about the series and I just saw that book, I mean, I feel like that book was calling to me. Like just seeing
Mhm.
that one color. Like I feel like fantasy books, they all do like darker,
Darker,
darker
yeah.
about all about the same colors, you know, red and black or blue or dark blue. Like it's just all darker
Right.
colors.
Honestly, a lot of books I feel like follow that pattern too sometimes. Like I feel like when I see brighter colors for books, it's like lighter concepts, you know? Like it's difficult to see like a really light colored book that like is diving into like fantasy stuff. You're right.
That would be crazy if like a bright book like this is like the darkest book.
You've ever read. Honestly, also really good marketing. You did
True,
something like that.
true.
Also, you're talking about. I want you to keep telling me about this book, but I also have book news, which you know me, I never have book news
Book
because I
news, guys. She
don't.
does. Imani does not read.
I can't actually. I legally don't know how. But I learned. I've been reading. I've been looking at some stuff. But tell me about the Fires of Mist and Fury.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't care about talking about this book. I finished it and I'm like, all right, that happened. I
You weren't
want to.
surprised by the big ending that everyone was whatever. I don't remember what the second book
I mean, I'm
ended.
not gonna give out spoilers to anyone who plans on reading it, but I mean, it was quite. I'll give my brief review of the book. I think this book was too long. I think
It is.
about
It does look heftier than the first one,
it
just by
is.
looking at it.
I think, and it was, you know what's funny? I think the first one should have been longer
Whoa.
because because up until I like this book up until like page 240 or something, where the book
That's
just does a complete 180, and the last third of the book it introduces the main villain, the main plot, and introduces all this action and everything. And look how little of this book is left, Imani.
cool. It's
Like
they want to build anticipation for the next one.
it's just rushed. It's just rushed, and I just hate that. And I think the last third of this book could have been longer. I think this book should have been this book size, or at least close to it. Like that last third of the book should have been longer. Anyways, and
That's
then
That's sorry, that's just such an opposite, not opposite, but such a weird. Like I'm thinking about how you talk about like TV shows where you're always like, first season's too short, second season needs to be longer, and it's like, first book's too short, but second book too long. Actually, I'm like, how?
well, okay, here's how. Because the first 100 pages of this book are some of the best fantasy I've read. I'll say it. It's
Well,
good stuff. It's good stuff. I mean, it just builds to just such a great crescendo. Uh, and when it ends, you're like, wow, that was great. That was great. Wow. So this whole part right here, because it goes to the House of Wind. Like after that, like this whole section is goaded. This is great stuff. I
mm,
mean, it talks about anxiety. It talks about like night terrors. It talks about PTSD. It talks about just like being trapped in a home, in a or feeling like you're trapped in a relationship and stuff like that. Like it just talks about such good topics, and you're like, dang, and it all builds and builds and builds, and then boom, the settings change, and you go into the next part. Now, unfortunately, the next part is some good stuff, some really, really long exposition, some building of characters that I think could have been built over the course of the book instead of just let's all sit at a dinner table and talk about who we are and where we came from. Isn't that interesting? Now you go.
mm,
Now you go. Now you read your part of the script. Okay, now you read your part of the script. Now you read your part of the script. And then I, as the main character, will read my part of the script, even though the readers of this book and the other book have already seen my story. I will give you another brief 2-page explanation of who I am and why I'm here, how I got here, because that's what we need.
just a little recap.
Just a little recap, just in case It's like in those anime episodes where they're like, hey, just in case you missed the last episode that literally came out last week, or the episode that you just watched before this, we're going to recap the first 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and then in the last 2 minutes, you'll get new content. There you go.
Honestly, fair enough.
And so,
Especially, yeah, like if that happened in like the start of the book, maybe, you know, if like there's space between the two books coming out, I'm like, okay, a little like refresher just so people know what's going on. But like after, like in the second act of the second book, it's like, well, at this point I know what the dealio is.
yeah. And then, okay, I guess I am going to get into a bit of spoilers. So, spoilers for anyone who wants to read ACOTAR and A Court of Mist and Fury. I'm not going to tell you when to skip ahead. I'm sure Cyrus will figure that out. But yeah, just skip ahead to somewhere where we're talking about probably this book still, or another book, or whatever Imani is reading at the moment.
Whatever the fuck Imani is up to. I don't know.
Yeah. Anyways, so to make a long story short, the reason why I think this book could have been shorter is because most of this, Imani, is just taking the book. Most of this, Imani, right here. Most of this is literally nothing but like relationship building. Like she left this toxic relationship with another man, and now this man is training her, teaching her to read, teaching her to care for herself. Yeah, she couldn't read. She's illiterate. Stupid, right? Women. And I'm kidding. No. But I mean, she was illiterate. I mean, that she was.
Like she couldn't read like their specific text, or
no,
like she couldn't read.
She couldn't read at all. Like she just grew up. She grew up hunting, so she never had to like learn to read or anything like that. You know, women.
I know some of this plot because Tyrus told me.
But. Yeah. But anyways, so he's like teaching her all this stuff, and there's one great moment, Imani, where she wakes up from one of her nightmares. She's like gasping for air and everything, and he's like comforting her. He's like, it's not real. It's not real. It's not real. And I'm like, yeah, dog, this is great stuff. Yeah. And then just when you think they're about to finally kiss and fall in love and showcase that this is the kind of, you know, healthy relationship that Farah was grasping for, was wanting all this time, the author says, no, not yet. And you're like, okay, fair enough. Maybe a little bit more building needs to happen. And then another moment, maybe 25, 50 pages later, another moment happens where they look like I mean, this is just a perfect moment. There's a festival happening, and the lights are shining, and it's just beautiful, and they're both looking at the moon or the stars or whatever, and they're like, wow, this is beautiful, and they're both looking at each other or whatever, or they're both side by side, and they're like, not yet. And then again, Imani, another moment happens where you're like, oh my God, this is it. This is when they're going to kiss. I mean, the author's been building towards it. This is great. This is stuff, right? Imani, this shit happens like 6 more times. Okay. And finally, how they finally kiss is, oh shoot, there's one bed and it's raining outside. It's a cold rain. There's only one bed. We're going to have to get naked and share this bed together so we can keep our warmth together. It's the only way. Oh shoot. Your tongue slipped down my throat. That's so weird, dog. So what in the world? And then that's how that happens. I'm like, what in the world? Like all this.
That's a hornier way that I thought it was gonna go.
But I'm just like, all these beautiful moments that could have happened. And of course, it happened in the most cliche, the most tropey, I guess sexy way, so that the girlies could be like, oh my God, it's so beautiful. And I'm sure the girlies are over here like, oh my God, that's so great, that's so hot, like finally. And I'm just like, bro, there were so many better moments when this could have happened.
Damn.
And we sit through all of this, Imani, all of this. Now, now there is some action. Okay, there is some action. I'm not saying that it's all just relationship building. There is some stuff that happens, but there's also some chapters where there is just like, and we waited to see what would happen next. And I'm like, okay, can we get to what happens next? Because I'd rather be there already.
I'd rather be when the thing is happening.
I'd rather be there. Like they get one item and they're like, okay, we have this item. 75 pages later. Okay, guys, we are here and we're ready. What's happening? And then, Imani, what's crazy is I stop in the last 100 pages because she finds out that this dude that she's been with is her mate. That they're destined to be with each other,
I heard
Imani.
about
And
that.
this is the part where I said, suck a fat one. That shit is ass. Like I'm like, that shit is ass, bro.
You didn't like
I don't have a problem with them being mates. What made me mad was when she was pissed about it. Like, this man is over here, they just got attacked. Like, he's over here bleeding on the floor, like barely alive. She's like, I can't believe you didn't tell me that we're mates. I'm like, girly, I think there's other things you should be worried about right now. But whatever, I guess. What?
That is a trope though. Like, I've seen that trope of like people are like vibing and then it's like, by the way, like there's this predestined thing or something that happened that you weren't aware of that contributed to us being together, and for some reason the other person gets like livid, and I don't, it's like this you lied to me, and it's like, I mean, like, maybe kinda like I didn't tell you about it, but I don't think it changes that much.
That's what I'm saying, because it's like, okay, but if you knew that you guys were mates, because the way Tara was explaining it to me was, the idea is that she felt guilty for liking him and finding out that they're mates. She feels like he lied to her and betrayed her because, like, she should have always been feeling this way all along. Like, she shouldn't have been trying to fight it. Like, she's been this whole time been fighting these feelings for him when really they're mates anyways. So
why it was like she shouldn't be with him?
And I'm like, why is she so because the other guy was trash, and she was like still recovering and still thinking that she liked him or loved him to some.
Sorry, I have so many problems with that. That's worse than what I thought. I thought it was like she's upset because it's like, oh, like if you knew ahead of time, there, like, you would be like trying to fight destiny sort of thing of like, oh, like, what do you mean I'm destined to be with this guy that I don't know? Like, I'm not gonna let fate decide who I'm with. That I can kind of understand, but like just being like, oh, I liked him so much, like, I wish you had told me that fate wanted us to be together, because then I wouldn't have even like taking the time to really get to know you. I would just like dove in straight away, and I'm like, it's good to get to know people and like figure out how you feel. I don't think it like.
And my thing is like, if you knew that you guys were mates, wouldn't that make your relationship, like, if you knew from the beginning that you guys were mates, wouldn't that make your relationship a little more like, I don't know the word. Shallow, yeah, shallow. That's a good word. Like, oh, I know we're supposed to be together, so we might as well try to make this work. Like, instead of it building,
Imagine if they kissed right, like, at the first time at the festival at the Stars. It would have been like, well, we're probably gonna kiss at some point anyway. Jalen, at that point,
well, we're mates, dog. So
6 other endings.
Well, we're mates anyways, dog. So we might as well kiss. Honestly. No.
You might as well fuck right now. We don't need rain or one bed. You might as well come over here, girl.
Just come over. We're mates, dog. Come on. But like, my thing is like, okay, because I was trying to explain it to Tyra in the way that I understood this plot. Because I'm like, okay, all right, if we met and you told me at the beginning when we first met that we were mates and we were destined to be together, I'm like, wouldn't that make our relationship like shallow? You know what I mean? Like, wouldn't that make it less meaningful that we fell in love with each other because we were destined to do so instead of just doing so? And if I found out later, like if I found out now, oh, you and Tyra were mates, I wouldn't be pissed. I'd be like, I mean, makes sense, like, I love the girl, so I mean, that doesn't change anything. It wouldn't make me be like, I can't believe Tyra, like, if say Tyra knew the whole time or something, I wouldn't be like, Tyra, I can't believe you betrayed me for making me feel this way. And I'm like, what? No.
How dare you make me fall in love with you?
How dare you bitch. You bitch. No, but it's just like, what? No. I would be ecstatic. So I just didn't get that. And then that whole conflict is like, that whole conflict ends in like 2 more chapters where he's just like, yeah, my bad. And she's like, it's okay. You're my mate. So I forgive you. And I'm like, okay. Okay.
This is kind of the problem that that we were worried about.
I'm like, wasn't that the thing that you were worried about? But anyways,
Right.
I mean, I guess.
Really?
So
So interesting.
and
Have,
then
have you ever read? Because I know you used to read fan fiction. Well, I don't know. You might still. I don't know.
I used
I
to
don't know where your life
write
is.
fan fiction. I
Okay,
didn't
that's crazy that
read,
you didn't read
did
it, but
not
you
read
wrote it.
any fan
That's
fiction. I did not.
literally, and I get all this shit for being a writer that doesn't read, and that's insane. But I was gonna say, like, that's so many like soulmate like AUs or soulmate alternative universes. Like, it's so the way people do soulmate stuff is like, because there's the boring way where, well, not the boring way, but there's the way where it's like the first interaction you have is finding out that you're soulmates with this person that you don't know. And it's like, oh, whoa, like, let's figure that out. But the more interesting ones are always the ones where it's like, one person is like, God, I've always wanted to find my soulmate. And the other person is like, I hate this, like, regiment system. And I don't think we should, like, have to fall. And, like, to this, like, predestined belief that I should be with this person, and then they like get to know each other or whatever. Or it's people where it's like, oh, I would never be with this guy, and then it's like, oh, but they're soulmates. Like,
Yeah.
there's fun ways to do it, which, like, I like that. It is a little awkward to do it. It's a little weird to do it. No, I don't think it's weird to do it like once they've already gone to know each other. But I think like it just makes it adds a different dynamic to it. Like if you found out right now that you and Tyra were soulmates, how do you imagine that would change the rest of your relationship? Like knowing that, like would it?
I mean, I guess it would change some aspect because then maybe it would make things like just a little more shallow because it'd be like, well, we can't like end thing. Not that I ever want to, but like we can't like if we have a disagreement or something and we like feel like it's close to the end of our relationship or something, I'm like, well, we have to stay together because we're mates. So
Yeah.
like, I don't know.
Sounds like code for marriage, am I right?
No, okay. Here's the kind of
No.
soulmates that I like. There's an episode, I don't know what season, but Tyra showed me this episode of Black Mirror where do you know maybe you know what I'm talking about. I'm gonna try my best to explain it from what I remember.
Yeah, like,
So there
I don't know.
it's this like futuristic dating Tinder thing
Yes, she loves this episode. It's a great
where
episode.
they keep meeting each other,
Mm-hmm.
and basically the whole premise without spoiling too much is that these two people keep finding each other and keep falling in love despite how the world has changed and everything, and they keep trying to break out of this simulation or something like that because their love is like transpires or whatever else. That's the kind of soulmates I like. That stuff is cool. The kind of stuff where like no matter what, these people keep falling in love with each other. Like I've tried it again and again. I've rewritten the story. I've remade this world. I've remade the images of these people, and they keep falling in love with each other. That stuff that I love. That's the kind of soulmates
That's
I
good.
like. So Tyra was like, I thought you said you like so because we were talking about tropes we like. And I'm like, yeah, I just don't think this person did soulmates the way that I like it. Like there's many, like you can like a trope, but that doesn't mean you like every version of the
Every
trope.
time, yeah, no, and there are a lot of different versions of it.
Yeah.
No, that makes a lot. That makes a lot of sense. Like that, because you need tension. I think like when you're doing a soulmate trope, the the inevitability of the soulmates needs to be like kind of counteracted with something else that's like in conflict with it. And what that can be a person, that can be the outside environment. It seems like the outside environment sort of is like the one that you really like, where it's like, these people are destined and they know that, but the world doesn't, adhere to it.
I feel like because here be the difference. If they knew, like say that Black Mirror episode, if they knew the whole time that they were always destined to fall in love with each other, then it would be boring, and there wouldn't be any tension, and they just get back together. You know what I mean? But because it keeps happening again and again, because they keep falling in love with each other, because they love and care for one another, and not because some predestined because it happened again and again and again, they need to do it now. But because they actually care about each other, that's when I'm like, see, this is the kind of stuff I love. So I don't
I get
know.
that. No, that makes sense. Makes sense. I was say I feel like it could work
Hmm.
if they knew, but I feel like I feel like it could work if they know ahead of time, but I think it would just mean the world would have to be a lot more dangerous because it's like that Black Mirror episode. It's not terribly like they're not like really in danger. It's just like the way the world functions is like the opposite of like what they want in terms of their relationship. But like I think it can still work if they know ahead of time, but I think the world then has to be a lot more like tumultuous and dangerous where like the threat needs to be heightened if it's like they're coming from a place of like knowing that they have to find each other, you know?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I can agree with that. Um, so I mean, just overall, I think this book, just like the first one, had its good moments. Um, I don't think it's the perfect book. I think there are parts of this book that were 5 stars, but there's a lot more of this book that was more like 3 stars or two
Okay.
stars.
Oh damn, I was
So
like, three's not too bad. Three's average.
so I there's no better feeling than clearing a book off your Goodreads as read, Imani. Okay, and so
I'm sure. Whatever.
Imani doesn't finish books, and so I hope you're gearing yourself though for my book series, Imani. I don't know what you're waiting for, but when those books
And
come out,
when I tell you it's gonna take me a year, I don't know how long the first one will be. It will take me a year.
god
LOL.
dang it.
You in interviews like, yeah, you know, I shared it with my friends and my family. My friend's still reading it. It's been out for a couple of years, but you know,
Now,
still
Dylan,
getting on it.
You finished your book series. Okay, it's been 10 years. You finished your book series. How do your friends like? How did they? What do they think of your book series? Well, I have one friend that still's on the first book. Um,
But so far so good. Is what they keep telling me.
she keeps like she'll read a bit of it and then she'll like put it off and like forget about it. You know, a few months will go by. She'll forget what happened. Then she'll reread it. So she's kind of like going through that process again and again. But she tells me
Honestly,
that
for
eventually she's gonna.
fantasy, no, for fantasy, it probably damn. For fantasy, I am gonna have to like buckle down because like I will forget. I will forget the plot, and
It's
I'll
like,
be like,
ooh,
damn,
what am I reading? What? Who is
what is
what?
this?
What? Where are we? Um,
Where are we? Who is this?
um, but yeah, so I would give A Court of Mist and Fury a.
Rating.
I don't believe in like 3 out of 5s. Or not. I don't. Oh, sorry. I don't believe
You
in like.
just said half of
No,
it was
no.
a 3 out of
I just
5.
mean like I don't believe in like 3.5s or like 4.5 or stuff like that.
Well,
Like,
like points.
yeah, I don't believe it. So I'm
You don't
gonna.
believe in like a good like point to like bump it up, bump it down a little bit.
Nah, I like a
Crazy.
surefire like this is the one. So I'm gonna say I'm gonna do I'm gonna do a 10-point grading scale. I'm gonna give this book a 6 out of 10.
60%. You heard it
60%.
here first. Jalen is giving Court of Mist in Fury.
And Fury, yeah.
I keep thinking I'm making that name up. He's giving that a 60%. Now that's I think technically failing in a grade point average.
Now actually
is that right?
by the 10-point grading scale, that is a point above.
Fail, yeah.
That is a
fair
point
enough.
above pass. Now, the first book I gave it a 5 out of 10. Like, I was like, it's just your average, you know.
Really?
Yeah. And so
Okay.
this book picked it up. You know, it was good. It was good. It just wasn't, you know, it wasn't.
That you're also coming back to it after rereading like your favorite like book series. So in the comparison
Whatever.
game especially.
Whatever. You think the
Wait.
fact that I love Game of Thrones has anything to do? I mean, it is a
Yes.
huge it is a huge difference between reading Game of Thrones and then coming back to this. It is. Okay.
Exactly. That's my point. Like you went straight from like this high level thing to this. Like in the comparison game, like yeah, you know.
Maybe one day I'll rank the Game of Thrones books too, because I wouldn't say they're all
Ooh.
perfect. I definitely would not say that.
Fair enough.
But yeah, so Imani, your book. Tell us about it.
Guys, I have been reading. I want to give this slight context because you know I don't fucking read. I do. Wait, you know what? No. Okay, let's talk about it. I as much as I like fiction and I like fiction in like TVs, movies, you know, other stuff, I really when it comes to reading, I think I really like reading nonfiction for some reason. And you've read like I know you are reading some nonfiction stuff too, as long like as well as
Yeah,
fiction.
I
But
I
like
am diving into psychology.
it's just such a fun, especially when you're writing like psychological philosophical stuff, really good reads, you know. The problem, and I have like some fiction books, like I have like a stack of books here, but guys, believe it or not, that those are books. Wait, yes, no, those are books I have read. Some of them are manga, we don't need to worry about that. And I have books
Hey, manga are
all
books.
aligned here. They are still books, they
Manga
have
are
word
books.
roots. But like the books that I have in rotation, because I have a stack here and I have a stack on my table outside, either they're nonfiction books, which are like fine, but they're like depressing ass nonfiction books about like things in society that like suck. One of them is a book about trauma. I don't want to read about trauma in my free time.
I
And
do.
then you would. It's too much though. And the fiction books I have are also sad. I sometimes I just need to take a break. But I have been at my job, we have a bookshelf and I've been organizing those books to sort into like ones we're keeping in donations. So I was going through our fiction because we have a lot of fiction. And I found, do you know who Matt Ruff is?
Nope. Not at all.
Interesting. Have you heard of Lovecraft Country?
Yep.
Have you watched it or read it?
I watched like 10 minutes of the first episode.
Uh-oh. Jalen has thoughts. I I someone like recently had suggested I read that or not read it. Someone had recently suggested that I watch it because it's like a really popular like I was gonna say not Afrofuturism, although I think it gives that even though it's set in the past, like historically like fiction, like historical fiction, like merging of reality. Fun fact, that book was written by a white man, which I'll just say I didn't know that, and I think that shocked me a little bit because it's such like a African American historical like classic
All
from
right,
what I learned.
hang on, pause.
Your test is overdue, Jalen.
Back to it.
Oh. But I was very shocked to find out that the person that wrote like would you have thought that the person that wrote Lovecraft Country just from the 10 minutes that you watched was a white man? Because I was a little shocked. Just a little bit.
Did they do any race switching or race swapping, or were they always black, like the main
Like
character?
I think the characters based on this book because I was thinking that I was like, oh, did they? No, because the story focuses specifically on like black characters in what like the Jim Crow era, I think,
Are
or
you
like the
telling me?
antebellum era.
Are you telling me that this white man is a brother?
Honestly, and I'm the book I'm reading is another book he's written. A little bit.
Hey, your brother. Dang. Okay.
But
So
here's the thing.
he's like Mark. You know that meme?
What, Mark?
I'm rocking with
Like
Mark.
Buffalo?
No, we're walking with Mark.
Oh yeah. We're
Yeah,
rocking Mark because Mark is rocking with us.
yeah. He's
No,
Mark. Okay.
honestly, legitimately, because at first I was like, weird. But like I think he does I think a lot of his fiction is like focused on like stuff like that, like racial like histories and things like that. It's giving like sociology, anthropology major, and like he's studied this, like because this book, okay, the book that I'm reading is called 88 Names. It's also by him, and it's I when I tell you, Jalen, you know I don't, you know it takes so much for me to read. I started this book at work like yesterday, and I'm on page 77 so far, which is like a miracle for me. This has been the only like other than the shit I had to do, this has just been all that I've been doing all day. It's a really good book. Can I please read you the description of this book? Because
Sure.
I need you to hear this and understand why I picked it up. John True is a Sherpa, a paid guide to online role-playing games like the popular Call to Wizardry. For a fee, he and his crew will provide you with a top-flight character equipped with the best weapons and armor and take you dragon slaying in the realms of Asgarth. Hilarious. hunting rogue starships in the Alpha Sector, or battling hordes of undead in the zombie apocalypse. Chu's new client, the pseudonyms Mr. Jones, claims to be a wealthy, famous person with powerful enemies, and he's offering a ridiculous amount of money for a comprehensive tour of the world of virtual reality gaming. For Chu, this is a dream assignment, but as the tour gets underway, he begins to suspect that Mr. Jones is really North Korean dictator Kim Jong un, whose interest in VR gaming has more to do with power than entertainment. As if that wasn't enough to deal with, Chu also has to worry about Miss Pong, or Miss Pang, who may or may not be an agent of the People's Republic of China, and his angry ex-girlfriend, Darla Jean Covington, who isn't the type to let international intrigue get in the way of her own plans for revenge. What begins as a whirlwind online adventure soon spills over into the real world. Now Chu must use every trick and resource at his disposal to stay one step ahead, because in real life, there is no reset button. What the fuck do you mean you're doing services for North Korean dictator Kim Jong Un? What? What? Hello? That's a crazy description to me. I literally had to start reading it.
What? I'm still trying to understand. Is this nonfiction?
This is nonfiction. I mean,
Okay.
I guess technically it's speculative. Well, I like speculative fiction, sort of, but no, like, yeah, it's literally nonfiction. I think this was written in 2020, which makes it for some reason way funnier. It is, but again, like I think a lot of his books like play on reality, like very extensively, and it's like I'm telling you, so much of the book, like there's a little guide in the back about like RPG like stuff about like what a class is, what race is, like in the game, like roles of like tanking and healer and DPS, like shit where I'm like I don't know how real it is. I'm assuming it is, but like I really think you would like this book. It's really interesting and it like really dives into the world of like RPG gaming and like world building, like stuff like Baldur's Gate, like that type of thing. It's
Oh,
really good so far.
yeah.
I strongly recommend.
Baldur's
It's
Gate.
so weird.
Eh.
Stop. I saw you uploaded a video. You kissing somebody. I don't remember her name. I know her character.
Shadowheart.
Probably.
Oh wait,
Which
no,
isn't
that's
she
not.
kind of a bitch?
No. That's not Shad. That's not my character. That's Chase's character.
Whoa, not Chase's
Also,
character.
yeah, I've been every day, daily for like whenever I started the series. I don't know. We've been
You've been
uploading.
playing Baldur's Gate?
Well, we've been uploading the videos of me and
Daily.
Chase's first playthrough last year. Yeah,
Or
well,
I didn't
Christmas
know
of
you
last
like
year.
did a whole playthrough last year.
Oh yeah, we banged that whole game out, and
I don't like the way you said that, but
we did
okay.
though. We banged that whole game out. I'll say it again. We banged it out
Okay, we don't need to do all
many times.
that. Okay, we can
Yeah, we
stop.
did.
Just
Mm-hmm.
you and your brother?
Just me and my brother. Yeah,
LOL.
Imani,
Don't do this.
listen,
No.
you're not into fantasy, and
It's not that I'm not into
and no,
fantasy.
here's the thing, okay? I don't think you're into fantasy no more than I think Tyra is. Well, I mean, Tyra would at least read fantasy, so I guess she's into
Yeah,
fantasy to some regard. But
I think
thing
Tyra's
is, thing is, the reason why I love Baldur's Gate so much is not because of its combat. Okay, a lot of people compare the combat of Baldur's Gate to like League of Legends stuff like that, and that is one of the reasons I would never play that game. I would never play League of Legends, and when I saw Baldur's Gate, I was like, probably wouldn't play that game. But the reason why I played Baldur's Gate extensively now is because of the story, of the characters, of the world, of the literal, the beautiful choice that you have to dictate what the heck happens in the world around you. I mean, so much so now, Imani, I wish Baldur's Gate was a show or a book or a book series or something of that nature, because I think Baldur's Gate is worth it. I think it's up there with given the right writing team. I'll join you if you want me to. Given the right writing team, I think this could be up there with Lord of the Rings, with Game of Thrones. Like, this is it.
See, I think I'm confused because like Dungeons and Dragons is a like a like it's not one story, it's like a universe. It's like a world. From my understanding, like there are common like races and classes and things that exist in all Dungeons and Dragons type games. And from what I understand, Baldur's Gate specifically is based on Dungeons and Dragons like rules, I guess. So it's like, are you wanting like is it the specific story that they tell in Baldur's Gate with like these specific characters, like, or is it just like the Dungeons and Dragons concept, like to all like in general? Because I know they made
So
that. Didn't they make that movie with like Chris Payne? That's not his name, is it? No, it is his
Chris
name.
Pine,
Chris Pine. You know,
the
that's
the D and D
they're
movie.
they're roles.
So
Yeah, Dungeon Dragon movie.
so
Did you watch
okay,
that?
I did not. I still want to though. I really wanted to see that movie. I was told it was really good. Still want to see
Oh,
it though.
really?
So Baldur's Gate, the first Baldur's Gate came out in 1998
Whoa.
or something like that, and the second one came out some years later. I don't remember when. Um, from my understanding, I don't have the best understanding, so I'm sure I will get attacked in the comments. Not that I wasn't gonna get attacked in the comments anyways for my opinion of A Court of Mist and Fury, but
That's true.
now we're gonna not only are we gonna get comments of no, he said it wrong. That's not even the plot of the. You're dumb, Jalen. You're dumb. You're dumb. Now we're gonna get comments about no, that's actually not what Baldur's Gate is about. Blah blah blah. My understanding of it is that Bald that so I do know D&D. Baldur's Gate is based off of D&D, but
Hmm.
D&D has many different worlds. The thing is about D&D is you can make your own world. You can make your own there are races you can use your own the races, the classes, that's all D&D. But the world you create is yours. And
Hmm.
so basically Baldur's Gate is just that in game form. So
Like a world that someone specifically
yeah,
built.
so all the gods and lands of Baldur's Gate have nothing to do with D&D. They made that all up for the games. The only thing that has to do with D&D are like the races, the classes, the way you play the game by rolling a D6 or sorry, a D20 and stuff like that. Like that's how
Right. No,
that's the
D&D
only
is like,
yeah, that's the only D&D part of the game. So when I say I want a Baldur's Gate show, I mean I want the world of Baldur's Gate turned into a show.
okay. Because
Yeah.
Baldur's Gate is a place, right?
Yeah, Baldur's Gate is a city.
The city. Which is crazy because that's not a gate. But it's whatever. And who's Baldur?
Right?
Let's talk about it.
Me and Chase made that joke the entire game. We were like we're on the quest to find Baldur. Well, honestly, the whole time I was like, who is Baldur, Chase? What is
No.
and by the
What
before
slash who?
the last act. So there's 3 acts. The last act of Baldur's Gate is you finally getting to the big dang city that is Baldur's Gate. And up until we got to
I'm
Baldur's
sorry.
Gate,
Wait. Shut the fuck up. You don't get. You're not in Baldur's Gate after you crash the alien ship thing.
no, you are in Faerun.
That's crazy.
You're just in other lands and you're making your way to Baldur's Gate um to stop the evil at play.
That's
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah. And
Don't get there till fucking 2/3 through the damn game.
no no
That's
no but no but hear me out. Me and Chase spent longer in that one act in that one city of Baldur's Gate, longer than we spent 32 hours in the first 2 acts. We spent the next 50 hours in the city of Baldur's Gate. And we didn't even do everything, Imani. We missed 3 whole characters we missed that we just didn't do the story for. And there's still content we missed, Imani.
damn.
Still.
That's crazy.
Still. Now,
See, and again, like we've talked about, I'm pretty sure I've said this on the podcast. Like open world games really like honestly, you should be thanking this book that I'm reading because like if I can get into like the like single plot of a thing, it makes it easier to comprehend. But it's like even just like reading this. I mean, even this is like a futuristic way. Like this is like a futuristic like when the RPGs go into like VR where it's like completely like submersive. People can like spend their whole days, their whole lives like in these sorts of games. But like even then, it's like the world is so fucking big. It's like the whole book seems to like take place inside of it. Like it's just so daunting without like a sense of like direction. And I think part of my problem is like if I were to play an open world game like that, I would have to like it'd be like oh, like go find Balder or whoever the fuck they're looking for, and it'd be like some guy on the side of the road being like, my someone stole my potatoes. There are goblins in the cave. Please help me. And I'd be like, fuck off, old man. I gotta go find fucking Balder. I can't get distracted by your shit right now. Like I feel like the only way I could play that game is if I'd be like one track minded. I'm like, don't talk to me. I have one thing to do, and I
Okay.
have to do it. Otherwise, I will get so lost, and I'll just like I'll
But
stop.
the problem is the game the game developers expect that from you, Imani. And what they do is they put a level cap on you. We're like, yeah, no, I don't care about anything else. I'm just gonna go do the one task that I was given at the beginning of the game. Well, guess what, Imani? There's a bunch of enemies that you can't beat because you are so under level that you would never be able to beat them. Okay? So you have to go and do other quests and get stronger to be able to move forward.
I literally hate that. Like that's legitimately my worst nightmare. It feels like it's like melting my brain to be like, why would you purposefully distract me after you told me to do some shit, and then be like, oh, it feels like being at the DMV. Like, what do you mean you told me I need to go here, but I need to go and do this other thing and then have to come back? I'm just gonna leave,
Well,
and
okay, well
then you'll
here
never see me again.
well the thing is the task that you are given, um there's just multiple avenues. There's like I don't know. I'll give you the
An
premise.
open-ended question.
I'll give you the premise basically. You are the reason you're on this ship is because you have just been infested with a tadpole that they put inside your eye and is now in your head. That tadpole is going to turn you into an elithid, which is an octopus looking
I've
dude.
seen them. They're really nasty looking.
Yeah. So that's what you are going to turn into if you don't get this tadpole out of your head. Okay.
Yeah.
However, so you crash land and you're like, okay, well we got to find a healer. We got to find someone that can get this thing out of our head. So you go here. They're like, well, I can get this thing out of your head, but I'm gonna have to poke out one of your eyes. What? No, I don't want you. I don't want that. I'm gonna kick your ass right now. And you go over here, and they're like, well, in order to get that out of the mind, you're gonna have to do this. What? You can't help me either. So you realize, wait a minute, no one can help us, and the only way to do this is just to get stronger to defeat the big bad. The only way is to go along with this quest. So in that way, Imani, do you know the writing term MacGuffin?
I've heard of it, but I don't remember what it means.
Basically, it's just a plot device. It is a thing that moves the story along. Like
Hmm.
in Game of Thrones, every in Game of Thrones, the MacGuffin is the Iron Throne. That is the Game of Thrones. Everyone is fighting to sit on the Iron Throne to rule over the seven realms of Westeros. That is the plot of that is what everything is circling around. If you were to put everything down,
Hmm.
everyone, every character is fighting to somehow be involved or somehow have their family sitting or whoever they're helping sit on the Iron Throne. That is the goal. And so the MacGuffin in Baldur's Gate are the Netherstones. There's these Netherstones, and there's these three villains, antagonists that you have to fight. Because if you get those Netherstones, then you can finally defeat the Elder Brain and finally get rid of the tadpole. Or you have multiple endings, or you can tap into the power and rule over all the people with the three Netherstones you have. collected, among
See,
many
here's the
other
thing.
inmates.
And see, that's so okay. For one, I want to circle back to the arugula. What is it called? The plot
Illithid?
device? The
Oh,
illithid? No,
wait, what?
not well. Like,
Oh,
what's the
MacGuffin?
thing? MacGuffin. Thank you. I want to circle back to that because I'm like that's an interesting point. I think in fantasy. But like for me, because you were like you're like you walk up to this one guy and he's like I can take it out, but I gotta take out your eye, and the game would end there for me. I'd be like okay. I don't give a fuck.
But
Take out my
okay,
eye.
okay, but the problem is, Imani,
Look
that
at
doesn't actually work. Okay, that's the problem. The game doesn't just end. They're like, well, you did it. You got rid of the tadpole. No, you just lost an eye, Imani.
That's fucked up.
Now for the rest
Like
of the
they want me
game,
to suffer.
look. Now for the rest of the game, you have one eye, and every time
And
you
I
try
was
to
mad.
look, every time you try to
I'm
attack,
fucking angry.
look, every time you try to attack, you have disadvantage now because you lost an eye.
And you see, like, why does it have to be real life? I come to this place to escape. Why am I getting why do I feel like I'm in line for the DMV? And it's like the whole quest is just me trying to like renew my driver's license. That's so much. I'm like, I'm just gonna have an attitude the whole time. But the
MacGuffin.
thank you. The MacGuffin, like I think in fantasy especially, that's like such a pivotal like thing that like writers like should need to remember because the world can get so big and things like that.
It has to
And I was
revolve
like,
around something.
has to revolve around something. It's true.
Like
Makes sense.
even if like the MacGuffin doesn't have to be a book or a weapon. Like I mean, look at Marvel. The MacGuffin is they're the Infinity Stones.
True. At least for the first half.
And so with the new saga upon us, I think a part of their problem is they don't really have anything to wrap the story around. They don't have an Infinity Gauntlet to be like, yes, this is how all these characters are gonna come together. It's like, no,
But I do think like the thing that they've been because I also think a common theme like because like you said the MacGuffin doesn't have to be um like you said like a weapon or a thing like that. I feel like time is sort of what they're leaning into though. Like this like the concept of like time as this is a quote from Interview with a Vampire. That time is a time is a monster or something like that.
I watched the
Like
first episode of that, by the way, guys, and Imani has still not watched
while he
ReZero.
was drunk off his ass.
And I
does not
remember,
count.
I still remember it.
Tell me the plot.
What? He's going into Interview with a Vampire, and the dude's talking about Corleone or whatever.
Yeah, no, actually name their names. No, for the plot. What are
Okay,
their full
fine.
names?
There's Grey Worm. Okay. There's Grey Worm. He's the main character. He's telling the story of how he started sucking the cock of this white man, this French white man, and
Crazy.
and
Yeah, and
well, no, the first episode ends with him telling him how he became a vampire. Bam. And she said,
you can't even say their names. You don't even know their
I just
names.
did. Grey Worm. I just said his name.
Which is literally, guys, what he was calling Louis the entire first episode. I'm like, I don't think his name registered at all.
It wasn't, guys. Imani thought it was because I was drunk that I kept calling him Grey Worm. No, that's Grey Worm, guys. That he will never be.
That's the brain association. Louis the Point du Lac.
No, that man. That is Grey Worm.
That falls off your tongue. Louis. Grey Worm?
Grey Worm, yep.
Which is still ugly ass name. That's crazy.
I mean,
like why would they do that to him?
He was a slave.
Ooh.
So,
they would call him something derogatory like Grey Worm. That's crazy.
Well, listen, Imani, when you watch Game of Thrones, you'll understand. But for right now, you can just stay in that same thought process, I guess. But yeah, I don't like a MacGuffin doesn't have to be a specific thing. It can be a person. It can be a pill that someone swallowed that now the whole plot revolves around protecting that person and making sure that person doesn't get in the wrong hands or whatever, like it could be that kind of thing. But a MacGuffin needs to at some point. I don't know. Would you say a MacGuffin needs to be in every fantasy? Because if you don't, it is really hard to tie the entire world together if you don't have some kind of something.
Like anchor. I get it. I think it's like I think the more important thing is like if it can change, that's good. Like, like different like again, like if you're moving into like a different era of your book where it's like maybe you're exploring a different world, it's like the MacGuffin can kind of shift with that. I think that's fair. You're making me think about like what that is. Because I think that is a bit like grounding points in general in your writing are really important. Like I think that's something like I mean I learned like in classes and things like that, which like it's sort of the place in which you learn those things because they're like I get it, you want to write silly fun goofy things, but what is the thing that's grounding? It's really the like what are God, I'm trying to remember how they worded it. It's like what is the it's like oh it's the one of the things is like what's the acute tension and what's the chronic tension. So like the acute tension is like when you start reading the book, like what is the thing that like on the surface level it's like this is the thing that we're trying to attain. Like that's a lot more material, a lot more like tactile almost. But then the chronic tension is like and that's what causes like that's causes like the characters to move and things to go forward in the story. But the like chronic tension is like the more subtle themes that are present that are also pushing like the characters and the things to like develop as they develop. So sort of like a two-pronged thing. Like it might be like the acute tension of like, everyone wants to fucking get the fucking steel throne,
Iron
the
Throne.
sword throne, the iron throne. It's a metal to get on that throne, but then that's the acute tension. The chronic tension is more about like the greed and the desperation and like those sorts
and
of like things.
and the whole lesson behind the Iron Throne is that like because there's this other growing conflict, the White Walkers, the army of the dead that is slowly approaching this world surrounding
I
Westeros.
genuinely thought that was a term from The Walking Dead. That's a Game of Thrones thing. The White Walkers.
White Walkers, yeah, the White
Really,
Walkers.
white people are
And
scary.
the
You're right.
whole yeah, and the whole premise.
Wait, sorry. Crazy. I will say, in terms of symbolism, because I was talking about this with my boss, so much symbolism with like darkness and like blackness and like it always being a negative thing in theory. Interesting that it's like White Walkers that are being like reframed in Game of Thrones in this way. As like a negative thing. That's very interesting, actually. Sorry, continue.
Well, they all do, come with like the snow and it. So everybody's talking about the long night. The long winter is approaching, Imani. And so the right king has to be on the throne. It's the only way for us to prepare ourselves for the long night, right? And so the entire lesson of Game of Thrones is that we as a society, we need to. I mean, George said that the White Walkers was an analogy for global warming. That we have to put aside our petty differences and come together as humanity to face the growing threat, which is the White Walkers in their case. And so, I mean, you were talking about what were you saying? You were saying acute and chronic tension.
Yeah, tension.
So the acute tension is the Iron Throne. Like, oh, everything is wrapped around this Iron Throne, and you think that's how the story's going to end. But really, how it's going to end is maybe a person that wasn't even looking. I'm not going to say who, but maybe it's a person that wasn't even looking to get on the Iron Throne that is really Azor Ahai, which is the prince who was promised. Right? They are the ones.
Is this a real character?
Yeah, Azor Ahai. That's their like prophecy. But like that's the prophecy of the prince who was promised. And so they're like, maybe
it's a man.
They're the ones, or princess. They do say that. They say or princess. Oh. It doesn't have to be. Azor Ahai is genderless. Wow. And so they would be a person that unites the world and unites us against the fight against the White Walkers. And Imani, I wanted to talk to you about acute and chronic tension because that same thing is in Arcane. I mean, think about it like this, Imani. From the very first episode of Arcane, the show, the series is wrapped around this Hextech orb. Not that we're really paying attention to it quite yet. We're like, oh, we like Powder just walks into this room and sees just this thing on the table. She's like, "Ooh, shiny," and grabs a couple of them and puts it in her bag. That entire thing is the reason why the entire world is the way it is right now.
And they really like it's such a it's not a background thing, but I think season 2 is really gonna see it like become. And
Have you
I've
watched
only
any
watched
more?
the first episode still. Nah, I've been meaning to, but I've been like waiting for the right time.
I did.
Okay.
So we're not watching the next. So I'm just watching the next 3 episodes by myself, huh?
When does it come out? Oh, it's weekly, isn't it? I thought it was like every 2 weeks.
No, it's weekly.
You might be. I mean, if I can catch up by.
If you
I
can
mean, I'm
catch up,
not.
but also Tyra probably hasn't
Oh
caught up
yeah,
either. So
that's true.
we'll see.
Sometimes.
We'll see.
But like I do like Hextech is. I think I forgot like that how much that first episode was like, which is like some coincidental shit like
Mm-hmm.
that Powder was even there in Jax. Why am I forgetting all their names?
Jace.
Right. Who's Jax? Jax is a character somewhere for something. It is. Don't I?
Not in Arcane.
Not in Arcane, but somewhere. But like the fact that like that led to Jace being discovered and like his Hextech stuff, like
How his house ended up rising to power.
I,
All of that. Yeah.
can't believe. Also, just so you know, Cyrus is gonna have to put just like a gigantic spoiler disclaimer because even before you started spoiling like the ACOTAR, you already kind of spoiled part of the book, and I'm like, this started way early. I feel like this is a spoiler episode for just so many different things.
Just put it in the
Baldur's
title.
Gate, ACOTAR, Arcane, a little bit.
Just put it in the title. Just be like spoiler warning
Spoilers for everything.
spoilers for everything. Yeah.
Just all it is.
But I don't know. I just think that you can have a MacGuffin playing in the background. I think that's a better way to go about it because
Mm.
even though maybe a majority of the characters will be wrapped around this idea, not every character is gonna be actively thinking about it. Like think about Vi didn't care about the Hextech. What I don't know. They didn't have a specific name for the arcane orbs, did they? I mean, it was just when
No,
they actually made them into weapons, they called it Hextech
true. Like, well, not even just weapons, but like
tools and whatever
because
else.
they talk about the hex core.
Hex core, yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, I mean, like just those,
not in the Undercity. That's
not
not
in
what
the
it's called.
Undercity, but like no,
Oh, it is.
it is Undercity, yeah, or Zon or whatever else you want to call it. Um,
The
but
dumpster place.
right, but Vi doesn't even care or doesn't even acknowledge its existence until Vi and Jinx meet up again at the end of like when Jinx calls to her. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's the first time she's like, I don't even know what that is. Like, I'm just here for you, Powder.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Um, so and she doesn't acknowledge it. I mean, she takes Jace's gloves. She still doesn't really acknowledge like this looming threat or anything like that. It's just this thing that she's using.
And I think that's because like it was so contained to Jinx, like because I mean like the difference in like the methodology of how it's being used from like the Undercity compared to I don't remember what that place is called.
Piltover.
Piltover. Like is like, you know, once they had Hextech, they were like, we have to like we need to get this out and like going and like implement it in all these different ways. Like they were quick to like make it like like a steady thing in society. But like Jinx, it's like Jinx in a dark room with her fucking PTSD, just fiddling with shit. Like no one else really had access to this thing. You know, like don't spoil anything, but like my guess is, especially just based on the first episode of season 2, that that's changing a little bit, and that like is changing then like the power dynamic between those two places because
Mm-hmm.
like when you have a whole fucking army behind you that's using this like hex tech shit, it's different than like when you have one person that's like using it, but it's like it kind of seems like it's like expanding past just Jinx having this power, you know? Or which I don't know though, because like the first episode, it seemed like they were more so using that creepy dude's like tech, but like even that, like the point is like their tech in the Undercity is expanding, and like it's
Mm-hmm.
being more like militarized, I guess, on like a larger scale than it was before when it was just like pockets of people that had access to it that were using it. It's a very different sort of thing.
So we have reached the hour mark, so I guess we should be coming to a close. Imani, I wanted to ask you one more thing, okay? And
Well,
we're still gonna circle around Arcane, so this is good. I'm not gonna do predictions because we'll be here for another hour. So instead, I'm gonna ask you this, Imani. Keeping on the topic of MacGuffins and the idea of hex tech and all that, we see that Jace and Victor, do their smart talk about how hex tech works and stuff like that. And to most of us, it's just a bunch of mumbo jumbo
gibbly gob.
because gibbly gob. And so, my question to you, Imani, is how do you make fantasy science interesting to listen to? How do you make them? How do you make a smart character? Because many people say that a smart character is only as smart as the person who is writing them, right? And so,
Yeah,
and so, I mean, just reading Game of Thrones, I just know that George is an intelligent person because to have all these different people, it's like insane to me.
mm,
But how do you think? How do you create a fantasy science that sounds like it makes sense? Even though they obviously are saying a bunch of mumbo jumbo,
right.
how do you make it sound good? And how do you make a smart character sound smart?
See, and I think like the biggest thing is, and I think I've said this before. I don't know in this context, but like it's really no one makes a world from scratch. Like I'm a firm believer of like you're unless you're like an AI robot, and even then, no, you don't. You're programmed by the people that live in the world that are programming you based on that. Like you have your life experiences, and even if you're writing something that feels completely unrelated to that, I feel like most things that make the most sense when they're in like fantasy worlds or like science fiction worlds are are like hitting on pretty fundamental themes of like time, space, power dynamics, like difference, similarities. Like I think like the sense of like how power works and power systems is also based vaguely on how they work in like the world here. It's
Mm-hmm.
just like I can't even like fully describe it because I can't. I never pay that much attention. So like the power systems. I think the perfect balance is when you are making a system where people don't feel like they need to know, when people don't feel like they need to investigate it deeper. Like there are some systems where I feel like I need to study up on this because I literally don't get it. That feels wrong. Like you want a system that where like you can say a bunch of mumbo jumbo, but it's like it feels like familiar mumbo jumbo. Like it's not like a terribly unfamiliar concept. Like Hex Tech makes enough sense to me where it's like you have this sense of energy that is like it is like there's a lot of energy in this thing, and energy can be like manipulated in a multitude of different ways to make a multitude of different things with different capabilities. Like when you I think that's like a reductionist approach to it. I feel like there's a way of like complicating things or like taking something simple and like separating it out. I kind of feel like that's what they're doing, where they're like, okay, you know, we're not trying to mimic like fucking how like we're not trying to we're not starting from like how modern day like fucking like memory chips work, because that's already a super fucking complicated process that's been like whittled down into a thing, and it's like, well, let's go from there. It's like, no, let's go back to like what is energy, and like in the sense of like raw energy, what is that? And it's like people vaguely understand that energy is the thing that powers like a ton of different shit, like lights, which are different from sound, different from like hearing, like it there's so many things, like your AC and your computer are powered by the same thing, which is energy, but they have completely different functionalities. I feel like that's kind of how they make it work. It's like it's playing on the complexity of science that already exists, where it's like, I don't really need to know all, like, but I understand what energy is, and I understand that energy can be used and action, like, and made into action in different ways, and therefore, like, it can do a bunch of things, and that doesn't need to be like re-explained to you as a human being. Like, you know that. Hextech to me is like really basic versions of that. Like, to me, it's like Hextech to like Jujutsu Kaisen fucking lore.
Yeah.
I'm like, it, like one thing I'm like, cursed energy, because again, they're good with the idea of cursed energy. I'm like, okay, energy, I understand that. Cursed energy, it's just that's just like where the energy comes
And
from.
you're forming it from you're forming your own cursed energy from your own like negative emotions or
Right.
whatever else. And
And I'm like,
the
okay, again, like
reason,
starting from a point of like the idea of energy, and then using it to like justify all these weird kooky shit that happens in your world makes sense to me.
yeah.
It it's just like it gets really. Oh, I also think I will say, in terms of color grading, Hextech is blue. That, like, that attachment to it, and like the fact that you can visibly see it working in different things,
Now
I
you know
think.
that any tool you see, oh, that's a hex tech tool, because
Exactly. I think it makes it real, like they simplify it a lot, I think, for Arcane. Even though it's powerful, it's like not a complicated like process. You know what I mean?
yeah, I think um the reason why Jujutsu Kaisen fails for me is that you're like, okay, okay, cursed energy, okay, and then you have, oh, okay, innate, okay, you have innate, then you have domains. Everything about that makes sense
That
to me,
means is where they lose me.
and then no, they lose me on the innate abilities, because I'm like, okay, you have cursed energy, and the reason why these curses are made is because of the negative emotions of the world around them. Okay, yeah, I got you. Okay, and then you have innate abilities where people are just born to with the ability to throw a nail and use a hammer to destroy, or they can close a book and that'll close their neck in on itself, and or something like that. Like, and you're just like, what? Why would you be born
Makes
with
me
that?
making shit up.
It's like, why would you be
That
born with that? Okay, yeah, 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 sure.
domain state, like I wish they would play more into like the fact that they're like silly little things that people make up, because like they make it seem like it's like, yeah, and this is just how their domain is set up, and I'm like, this is a hyper specific way to do this. Like, this is so like hyper specific. What do you mean? It's just like, yeah, and that's just their domain. I wish they would make it clear that it's like something that's like crafted by the individual, like
Like
intentionally, because that
symbolized or
makes,
something like that. Like,
yeah, like making that like connection, because otherwise, like, it just kind of feels like a gimmick, like a thing that happens, and it's like so many fucking gimmicks. Everyone has a different one, and it's like it's fun, but I feel like I spend too much time trying to understand why and like the rules of it, that it's like you're making worlds inside the world you already built. There are literally many fucking worlds with many rules to them. It's so much. Like, it's so much.
I think that like the reason, I mean, say what you want about Demon Slayer, but when it comes to like the blood demon arts of
Yeah.
the demons, like
Yeah.
at least it kind of makes sense why they have the power that they have, because it's usually something from their past.
Mm.
Like the blood demon art for the hand demon, he used to always hold his
Okay.
little, the hand demon. Yeah, he used to always hold the first demon that Tanjiro kills, the one with the hands all wrapped around him like that and stuff like that. I don't know if you remember, but
I literally, that show is like blank in my head. It's just so many pretty colors. I don't think I remember the plot of any of it. Like,
um, but
literally.
basically, like the reason, the way that demon was made was because he wrapped hands around himself to feel a similar warmth that his brother gave to him, a sense of calm that he had, because his older brother would always hold his hand as they walked home from the woods, and so
I don't remember this shit at all.
And so it's called the hand demon. And so that was how that demon was formed. And so their blood demon art was just them being not, they didn't really have a blood demon art because they weren't a full-fledged demon or whatever yet, but like they could like outstretch their arms to like attack people.
Oh yeah, I remember this.
So that in that way, I'm like, yeah, that's cool because it's still centered around this world. There's still some sense to it. My problem in Jujutsu Kaisen is that you have this innate ability where people can, that one.
Hell no, that's way scarier than I thought. I was thinking of the sexy Stitch guy from Jujutsu Kaisen. That's why I was confused.
But so. And that's my problem in Jujutsu Kaisen because it's not really based around anything. It's just based around the author's imagination because it's just like, yeah, and this dude can control things at 24 frames per second for whatever reason, and that's what he can do. It's like, okay, like it doesn't have to be born around a reason, but like it just makes your world seem a bit more clear, because that way it's like wrapped around something in your world versus obviously the writer made this up because they had an idea for a cool power.
Yeah, and again, speaking about like Ghibli's MacGuffins.
Yep.
Like the power systems are also like very grounding for plot. Like if it's something that can be like that can have like a straight line, like something that doesn't have to change once you get later in the series. I do feel like it loses. I don't know how much like Jujutsu Kaisen has it, because the original MacGuffin is, like the fingers of Sukuna. Like that's sort of like the semi focus, but like
but
I
it
can't
loses me
explain
so
how
fast.
Literally, I can't explain how fast that is abandoned, or like literally, like I forget about it, and it like pops up randomly. Like it like keeps popping up, but it's like not a straight through the plot. Like there's other things happening that like take like immediate, like, oh well, now we need to like work on this, and it makes you get so lost like in it. It's just so it's very disorienting a lot of the time.
Yeah,
it's a lot.
Yeah.
Damn. I'm so hungry.
So
I had to piss and eat in that order.
So to tie this back together, how you make a smart character or how you make like a like science fantasy make sense, fantasy science makes sense, is that you wrap it around something that a character that the readers or the watchers or whatever can understand. Sometimes, just like in that same way when you're trying to explain the power system and you like throw in a dumb character that you can just explain everything to, and in that way, in that same way, you can do that with your fantasy science, because
that's true.
The people who don't understand what Hextech is, they just are explaining it to someone. Oh, well, you just have to like crank it to do the thing, and then oh, okay, that makes sense to me.
It's the benefit of having scientists too. Like the benefit of having a dumb character for explanation. You have the benefit of having like two smart characters. It's the benefit of having two smart characters for Arcane, because you have. I'm just gonna keep calling them Phineas and Ferb, Jace and
Victor.
I knew it was like something like.
Also, I think you can make smart characters smarter by not right out calling them smart. Like, I feel like some writers. I feel like some writers, they'll be like, "Yeah, this character's smart," and they read a lot, and you're just like, "Okay, what makes them smart?" Well, they're holding a book right now, so like obviously they're smart. I'm like, okay, and then they do very, very dumb things, and you're just like, "Yeah, I don't know how smart this person really is."
And it's all like saying that blank label, because it's all a comparison game. It's like you're smart compared to like who you're with and who you're around. Like there's benefits of having dumb characters to make your characters in the world that they're given smarter. Like Jace's, like if everyone already had Hextech or knew that thing, like if he wasn't the one that was trying to like utilize it, he wouldn't be as smart in this world. And I think you progressively kind of like some of that control is being taken out of his hands because he's made it so like it is a thing that people can use, like you lose some of that control by not being the only one that wields it. I think my point in terms of smart characters is like there's a benefit of having two smart characters who can talk to each other or like interact with each other and support each other's smartness, and then you don't really have to like have this sense of communication between. You kind of don't have to communicate or have them like you don't have to have them communicate as much with other characters that don't understand it and therefore don't have to like explain it as much. Like I feel like there are times where Jason and Victor are just mixing shit up in the fucking lab and you're like, I don't know what they're doing, but they seem to be having a great time. Good for them, you know? And it's like you don't
I
really
don't know
they're
what
like
they're doing, but it seems to be working.
so
So
fair enough, guys. So good. I will last comment the quickness like I get like the quickness to which the scene is of Jace saving Victor's life in the first episode of season 2 is hilarious to me because it shows they're like we're not going to explain Hextech any more than we explained it in season 1. You get it. He can save his life with it. You understand that. And I'm like, I guess.
also Arcane does this so beautifully. Like through the way they do the same thing in Spider-Man. Like honestly, no, hear me out. In Spider-Man the Spider-Verse, like animated movies, they do this thing where they tell a backstory or a longer story or maybe what's happening with the character in the span of like 20 seconds. They're like boom, like first for example, that scene where Echo and Jinx are about to shoot each other, they're about to fight. And they line it up, they show them as kids. Oh, they used to play this game when they were kids where Echo would be trying to dodge as they're coming towards each other. It's like, and this is how their relationship has changed over time.
Fucking gorgeous. It's like
it is, and it's like
it's a gorgeous scene.
It's like wow, and you just told their whole story, their whole backstory in what, a minute and a half, maybe 2 minutes. Like
it makes the scene just so much like heavier.
And my thing is, Imani, last thing I'll say is because there's only 6 more episodes of Arcane, and I'm like, how are they gonna do it? But they're gonna do it because in the same way in Spider-Man in Spider-Verse, like it's a short movie. Well, it's 2 hours, but like it's a movie, and you're like, you don't know how much time. You think there needs to be more time for these things, but like, and you think things are being rushed, but I said this thing, I should have wrote it down. I said, I don't know if Arcane is just so well paced that I think it's rushed, or if I just like am taking in all this information and am just understanding everything really well because of how well paced it is. I don't know if that made sense. I didn't say it as well as I did when I was first watching. I said it beautifully, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna write that down or something," and then I didn't. So here I am trying to mimic what I said, and I don't know if it made sense.
The second part made sense. I was the first one was a little.
When you looked at me, you were like, "I'm like, yeah,
okay,
I'm losing her here."
But I get the second part of being like, is it just so well? I don't okay. Guess I don't understand that. Like,
are they rushing? Are they rushing through everything and not giving things enough time, or is everything just so well paced that the scenes are quick? I don't know. I don't know. I said it better the first time.
I get it. Like is it like it feels like everything is moving very fast, but it's not like like you're kind of psyching yourself out to be like it feels like everything's moving very fast, but it doesn't change, like it doesn't take away from the fact that I'm understanding everything. Like, is it actually rushed, or is it like they were just master like plotters in terms of being able to like pace this out in a way where like it's quick, but it doesn't take away from your understanding of everything.
For example, did you notice how the team was formed? How the team at the end of the first episode of Arcane season 2, the team that is going down to the Undercity, did you notice throughout the whole episode how that team was formed?
Yeah, like they
Like,
had little scenes
isn't
together.
it
Yeah,
interesting? Like, but like we don't. I mean, we don't even get the big guy's name, the one that
yeah.
is
Who
drunk.
the fuck? The whole time I was thinking, who the fuck is
Yeah,
this
but
guy?
like, isn't it so interesting how we don't need to see? Okay, you fought during the attack on the memorial, so we're gonna rank you up and we're gonna put you on the scene. Like, you notice how none of that is in there. It just goes
Yeah,
straight to how this team was formed, like because of their actions. Like, we don't need to see them being ranked up. We don't need to see how they were picked. We
and like you,
understand.
yeah, like it's like you have questions, but the questions are like I'm like it like the question like for me it was like, oh, like I don't even think this guy was like an enforcer, but like because he acted and was like a part of that like a, like like counterattack or whatever, like on the attack because he stepped in. It's like clearly you're trustworthy enough for us to want to recruit. It's like, is that it? And it's like, well, yeah, like the I don't need more explanation than that. Like clearly that's what happened. Otherwise he wouldn't be here.
And it's
Like
like,
I'm curious about it, but
I'm
I'm
curious
like,
too because just the way that they show who he is and maybe why he's fighting, because he just walks up to Vi with the bottle of alcohol. He's like, "You lose someone too," and that's it. Now you know. Oh, he lost someone as well, maybe.
yeah.
And you're
Which like
like,
in the attack, and I'm like,
and
what?
you're like,
I'm
what? I'm
he
like,
like there's
okay,
clearly more to explore with his character, but it's like you don't need like I get the sense that we're gonna like learn like this team is gonna be together, like we're gonna learn more things about them. But no, I think animation has the beauty of being of that because it's like they can't just like it's not like they're gonna like let their actors just run a scene a little long, and it's like, all right, well, that's nice, we'll keep it in. Like
yeah.
it's like everything has to be really plotted out and intentional. Like there's a lot more intentionality that like has to kind of happen when you're
That's
doing
why
animation.
that's why more flashbacks happen in live action. My mom, and my brother are watching Fallout right now, Imani, and I'm loving it. But the
Heard
the
about
latest the latest episode we've watched
it.
is episode 6. There's 8 episodes. Episode 6. There's a lot of flashbacks in the episode, and I'm telling you, Imani, those flashbacks were killing me. And my parent or Chase and my mom were like to try to not give as many spoilers as possible. They're just like, they're just alluding to the fact that there's something wrong with the way they're doing things. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. The presence is doing that right now. I don't need a flashback to show me that things are bad here. I already know because they're showing it here. I don't need a flashback of 10 minutes of everything's going to be okay because we know what we're going to do. We know how to get through it. And then in the present, obviously they're not together anymore. So you're like, oh, they didn't get through it. I get this. I know. Like, I don't need flashbacks. God, I don't know. Like, the right flashback is okay, but like some flashbacks piss me off. I'm like, please, can we get back
That
to the show?
makes sense considering you like don't you like hate prequels. Like
Yeah,
I feel like you're not a prequel person.
I do. I
I
think
don't. Yeah,
stay in the present. Stay in the present.
stay here.
Play, please. And that's the like please, because I am so sick and tired. Like, you wouldn't do that in a book, and if you did, it would piss off whoever's reading. You don't just at some point in the book go, I remember when I was a little girl, and you're like, what? And you're like turning the page, you're like, they're still
How
focusing
long
on
is
her
it
as a
dark?
little girl. What in the world? Can we get back to the present? You were just there. You were just about to do the thing. Like, and I remember when I was a kid that things were, yeah, I know things were wrong. That's why. Can we get back to that? Like, that's, yeah.
I don't mind. Honestly, I don't mind a past divulge, but it has to give additional context to what's going on. Like it can't just like tell me something in the past. I will say, tell and I we got it. We got to wrap
We
it up
got through.
soon.
We got through. Yep.
But like telling something in the past will never like in which like you just want to better inform me of what's happening now. Like
Yeah.
the
Give me some
past often
context
will
to
not
something that like we don't know. Like, okay,
don't
maybe we're
know.
learning this, but also this. But I felt like in this episode, we were just learning the same thing in different ways. I'm like, I don't need this then if I already know this.
That's the thing with the past. Like on like a more philosophical sense, like how you are now and how things are now is literally the evidence of something that happened in the past. Like if that didn't happen, things wouldn't be the way things are now. Like people can see the remnants of what happened in the present. You don't have to like divulge fully to the past to show how the past has an effect on the present. So you don't need to do a flashback to do that. But again, like there are when things are when you've intentionally hidden things from the reader where it's like things are a certain way but you have yet to explain why they're that way and the explanation is like very important, like that those explicit things that like you can't just like feel and understand from how things are in the present, that's a good like that's a good flashback opportunity. But like I don't need you to amplify the feeling of how things are now. I can feel it. Like that's
Yeah.
something that lives in the characters and in the world. And most writers, like you can translate that to how you're writing because you hold that and you carry that into your characters. Like you don't. It's the same way. Like your outline's gonna be way longer. All the plot that you think in your head is gonna be way longer than what actually makes it to the page. Like it's to inform
True.
as you write.
All right.
Okay,
I'm not. I'm just
I
not.
gotta pee.
Yeah, I'm not. I've had to pee this entire time, money. I'm not gonna add any more. We're just gonna end it here. I think that's
What
a
was
good
we
place
were
to
talking
end
about
it.
something like really like deep and interesting in the last 10 minutes? You're like, all right, now we gotta wrap up, but let's talk about this. What's the meaning of life?
Do I do that?
Yes.
I
But
do.
it's kind of my favorite thing. I feel like it's like a very it's a very this podcast thing of like I know we have 10 more minutes. Let's talk about a slightly related, completely different topic and see how much of that
Listen,
we can
guys. I
fit
know
into
we
it
have 10 minutes,
and
but
then never
listen.
come back to it.
Let's talk about the political and economical state of the world right now. Okay.
Yes. Let's get into it.
No.
Damn. I well the next time I generally maybe I'll finish this book and maybe I'll give you my
Maybe I'll
rating.
finish this book. I would love to start talking about this book. I'm still deciding what I want to do. I want to honestly do some philosophical like video. I want to do some video essays. I want to I want to break this down. Maybe not chapter by chapter, but just cuz I was thinking about doing chapter by chapter, but I was like, nah, cuz I don't have anything to say about every chapter. So maybe I should just say something about the chapters that I do have something to say about.
Yeah.
Um
Little book
so
review.
Women Who Run with the Wolves, I suggest that it's a really good book for anybody who wants to dive deeply into the psychology of women, or just the philosophy. And yeah, it's a lot. It's a hard read, but if you're patient enough, uh, and it's not something that you like just sit down and read before you like. This is something that you read maybe a page or two. You take some notes, you reflect, you think about it. Like, yeah, I don't know. It's definitely a hard read, but I still suggest it. So I'll leave it at that. Hopefully I can finish this by next week.
And I recommend this book. I don't know when I'll finish it, but I'm hoping it's soon.
Hoping it's
If
soon.
people like weird, like kind of present, it's not really dystopian. It's not really dystopian. It's I don't know what kind of fiction this is, but it's very, very, very engaging and interesting. And if you like Kim Jong Un, maybe give it a read. I don't know.
All of two
If
people just
if you
stood
like
up and were
RPG
like,
games and Kim Jong Un, well, guys, this is the book for you.
all of two people at the name of Kim Jong Un, all of two people just stood up and were like, oh shoot, that's me right there. I love that. Yep, love that
Love
stuff.
that guy, man. So
That's my goat.
powerful.
That's
Sick.
my
I wish I
goat.
had a country.
My goat.
Not
Yeah.
my goat. Crazy. All right, I have to pee and I have to leave and I have to eat. All in that order.
I have to pee and
So
eat. Maybe I'll
at the same
do
time, I hope.
maybe I'll do those two at the same time. Okay.
Crazy. Okay, guys. Well, this has been the Aceline Podcast.
Hope you guys enjoyed, and we will see you hopefully next week.
Yeah.
Come on, that's
We
not
just gotta
Thanksgiving.
start saying in the next one. Stop dating ourselves.
Well, I mean, we said next week. They don't know when this is going to be posted.
That's true.
So the 22nd. All right, we'll see you guys. Bye.
Crazy.